I see group of companies joining us on stage. Let's hear it loud together. Mr. Abhinav C. Ajmera, President, Leasing, Omaxe Limited, joining us on stage now. Let's hear it loud together as we welcome him. I'd love to welcome Mr. Vivek Srivastava, Head of Business Development, Benetton Group, joining us on stage now. And to moderate the session, I'd like to invite Mr. Saurabh Kumar, Editor Special Projects, Entrepreneur.com. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it loud together as we welcome all of them on the stage once again. And with this, I'd like to hand over the session to Mr. Saurabh Kumar.
So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to FRO Summit 2021. This session is on how retail real estate business is transforming. Obviously, pandemic has not left any business untouched, and every business has gone through a lot of downturns, and then have got back. There have been learnings, and today we'll try to understand from the esteemed panelists that how the retail industry is doing, both in terms of sales, space, and consumer experience, and the transformation of how people are adopting to retail in terms of e-commerce, and how that is going to affect uh, 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 the retail physical stores and other such stuff. So thank you, so, everyone, for joining us here. So, like I was mentioning backstage, that I'll start with a anecdote that a colleague of mine a few days back was in a mall, in a prestigious mall, and she was looking for a particular roll-on. And two things she said, which was very interesting for me, is that first, the store manager could not locate that particular roll-on, though it was there in the inventory. And the second thing was that she only happened to be there for some work, and that's why she checked into a store. Otherwise, she would have bought it online. So, gentlemen, your views, if I can start with you, Prashant.
So my views are a little different because and I'm talking specifically from the point of view of luxury industry. Currently, what we're seeing is that the demand has absolutely gone through the roof. We are at Emporio and Chanakya recording the highest footfall in the last 13 years. The sales for most of our partners has increased anywhere from 50% to 300%, depending on the brands that you look at. And today, there is a consumer which is ready, and sometimes you have a dearth of products to sell. Now, that could also be because of the shift in the consumption pattern. Earlier, people, when they were shopping for luxury items, could have the choice of either Dubai, Singapore, Paris, London. These four being the top four destinations apart from shopping domestically. Today, you don't have that comfort. You have to buy everything from within the country due to travel restrictions, and that is seeing the highest sales ever, and even the highest footfalls ever that we've witnessed in the last 13 years. So, it could be different for different segments, but as far as luxury is concerned, uh, luxury is performing extremely well post the second lockdown.
You were also telling me about some numbers. You were telling me about some numbers that you have seen, some record numbers.
Yes, so the sales have been, as I said, record. They've been the highest month on month post the second lockdown has been lifted, and there was quite a difference in the way consumer behaved after the first lockdown. It took about good 45 to 60 days for people to start coming back, and yet the numbers weren't as good as the pre-pandemic. However, the scenario after the second lockdown in Delhi was completely different. I think it was the comfort of having two doses of vaccination. B, you know, as I was mentioning to you backstage as well, it also depends from place to place. How much comfort are you able to give to the consumer, to the shopper, that the mall is safe? Like in our case with DLF malls, we ensured that before we opened, after the second lockdown, we had 100% vaccination for all staff. And when I say all staff, it's not just the mall staff, but each and every retailer, each and every casual worker within a retailer, we ensured that we vaccinated at our cost. We, in fact, did 15,000 vaccinations at the DLF malls before we opened our doors. So, there are various ways in which you can instill consumer confidence. Vaccination was one part. Second, people are very comfortable that when they walk in to our malls, we have thermal scanners. Even if there are 100 people walking into the Emporio today, I don't have to manually, put my staff into checking their temperature. We have technology in place which can record temperatures, take their mug shots, and we know exactly, what is the temperature of the person who's entering. We make sure it's mandatory that Arogya Setu app is shown. Hand sanitizers are available at an arm's length. And these kind of measures, once a retail destination takes, it automatically instills the confidence in the consumer that this is a safe place to come. So, yes, we are also bearing the fruits
Yeah,
of doing all that.
yeah. Yeah, safety, obviously, safety protocols are very important. Abhinav, would you want to weigh in terms of your experience and how you have seen the numbers grow or fall?
I had a similar experience what you were just mentioning, but I believe it's just a matter of time. Retailers are getting back to normal. Business is coming back. It's almost about 70-80% back in the malls now. And I think it's just an operations issue, what you and I experienced it. But I think it's a matter of time. Maybe Vivek would be better to give the insights of why there is a problem with the retailer stores right now. They're not able to figure out where the things are kept, and
Like inventory
inventory is there
management
in the
or
stock, but
something?
they're not
Is
able to
that
figure it out.
something you have to, as you were mentioning, that we need to, transform the way we were operating pre-pandemic and now, both in terms of maybe logistics, both in terms of supply chains, and both in terms of inventory management?
So if you look at pandemic and after pandemic scenario, for us, if I were to talk about fashion industry, we were very, very optimistic in 2019. And we all thought the years to 2020, 21 will be very, very good for all of us. Basis which the entire inventory planning, cost planning, everything was done. But then once we entered into pandemic, everything went into a standstill. Nobody had any idea, any foresight how the situation to be handled. So we were under tremendous cost pressure. 21 has given a sigh of relief to all of us. But at the same time, if you were to look at the recovery from 2019, and which unfortunately is an industry benchmark to look at how performance has, but if you were to look at from a cost side, you can't be benchmarking with 2019 sales and say that since I have recovered at 70%, this is a good indicator. Because for me, my input cost, the fabric cost, the logistics, manpower, rentals, everything is of 2021. So yes, we do face a challenge in terms of recalibrating the business. But from a recovery perspective, I see there is a lot of hope now. Unlike 2020, when consumers were literally scared to come out, now they are free. They feel more confident, more safe in the way Abhinav and Prashant told. Now, mall itself poses a picture that yes, you are entering into a safe zone, and there is a sense of confidence in the consumer's mind also, which is finally turning to a purchase decision. So yes, we are at a 75-80%, but there's a long way to go, is what I think.
Rehan, would you like to weigh in here?
Hi, good afternoon. I think I view it differently. I think the COVID, of course, the last 1.5 years been extremely severe on all categories of brands and all sides of the retail. In fact, both developers and retailers both have undergone tremendous losses, devastated absolutely. But I think we're on the road to recovery, and in this road to recovery, there are a few things that we will have to keep in mind. One is that technology, if you like it, you don't like it, has entered our life in a way. We have to embrace technology. There was a significant chunk of audience which was not embracing technology. It was not privy to some of these application based shopping, but I think they've all become part of our lives now. Technology has set in, and I think both sides, from the supply side as well, from the demand side as well, and it's here to stay. So we'll have to embrace it, embrace the fact as well that technology will disrupt a few things, uh, be it the way you shop, be it the way you consume. But at the same time, the it's very difficult to predict how quickly the trends will change and how quickly the consumption patterns will change. Last few weeks have been extremely bright in terms of the footfalls that are coming in terms of the sales which most of the brands are clocking. And in fact, as an average, you can say that close to about some brands are up to 80%, 90%. They have all recovered the numbers. And as Vivek mentioned, that although the last benchmark is what we can we can comfortably choose as far as the recovery percentage is concerned, is where we lost, is how much we have gained from there. Of course, the year-on-year growth and inflation, these things have not been taken into consideration. I think the benchmark is 2000 pre-COVID numbers. What kind of numbers were going on, or what kind of numbers brands were able to achieve when COVID was just setting in, and now what kind of numbers they've been able to do. I think it's on the positive note. I think road to recovery, close to about 6 to 8 months is generally what people are saying. But I think at the same time, things are not going to be absolutely back to normal the way things were pre-COVID. There's going to be a lot of disruption in the way we deal with customers, how the customers deal with, and what their experience and expectations now would be in the mall or in the place of shopping, the way they're going to consume, the categories in which they're going to spend, the wallet share they're going to, the wallet share per category is also going to change. I think there's a lot of change. We like it or not, we accept it or not. There is change, and this change is here. Some of them are here to stay, and very difficult to say whether it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be exactly the way that we left it.
Understandable.
And just to add on the note that we started on, one off case where a shopkeeper is not able to locate a particular article cannot be generalized across the industry, and I genuinely think is a one-off case, because I think both the retailers and the developers are extremely privy. I think the seniors, the CXO levels are extremely aware of how things are at the moment and what kind of strategies have to be put in place, right from the online distribution to the discounting, to luring the customers in terms of the visual merchandising, the geotagging. I think every possible effort is being made from the CXO levels. Therefore, a case where an article is not being able to locate, and this can be a technology lapse as well, in terms of, because everything is all articulated. Maybe he's returned to work after a while and he's not been able to locate general merchandise in the spur of the moment. But I would generally, I think personally, I think it may be just one-off case.
Okay, okay, understand. So, I'll put in some numbers. So this was a prediction in 2019, before the pandemic had hit, that the retail mall supply is expected to go up to around 65 million square feet by end of 2020, and then there were also that it is aspirational tier 2 and tier 3 towns, where people will be flocking more to these kind of shopping destinations, retail spaces. Do you think that these expectations will still hold true, or do you think there will be change in these numbers? Rehan,
I think these expectations will still hold true. I read a very recent report by one of the most reputed research firms, which said that by 2030, the tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India, 40 of them will alone account for $1.5 trillion of economy. And if that kind of growth is going to come from the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, there is no way that retail is going to be left behind. Yes, we've had a bump in the road as far as the pandemic is concerned. Most of us are saying that the business is back to either normal or beyond normal, depending on which segment of the industry one is looking at. And as far as online and offline sale is concerned, I think both will coexist. Today, whether it is organized retail or whether it is large companies, everyone's looking at an omni-channel way of doing business, where you have a seamless transition from online to offline, and how a hybrid model can work. And going forward, tier 2 and tier 3 cities, if they are going to be the drivers of growth in the Indian economy, I don't see any reason why retail footprint is not going to increase over there. That's the way I look at it.
So I think the tier two, the focus on tier two, tier three cities has already started before the pre-COVID. I mean, it's not that during the COVID period or during the pandemic or during this disruption, the retailers realized that tier two, tier three cities are lucrative markets. I think that transition had already started, and the chief reason why the focus was shifting into tier two, tier three cities is the occupancy cost and profitability per store. So while the rentals in the metros have been skyrocketing, and most of the malls of repute, I think the cost of occupancy is growing every year and growing exponentially every year. Therefore, most brands realized when they're doing the numbers across that some of their stores which are in tier 2, tier 3 cities, the cost of operation of the store is lower because the salaries, of course, are much lower. The electricity is much lower. The rental is much lower, which is an important component of the profitability of the store. And then they realize that the tier 2, tier 3 cities are actually more profitable as an operation, although the numbers will be drastically different in terms of the top line which the store, any particular store is doing. But the profitability of any particular store in tier 2, tier 3 cities, I think Vivek will probably be able to agree and disagree on that. But I personally feel that these numbers were the chief trigger why there was a focus on tier 2, tier 3 cities. During the pandemic as well, I think the metros were the worst hit with the curfews and with the lockdowns. The tier 2, tier 3 cities were able to recover and bounce back a little quickly than the metros. And chiefly because of the profitability, and there are a large number of tier 2, tier 3 cities which are unexplored, and good stores can be opened in these tier 2, tier 3 cities. And I think most of the brands, I think 90% of the brands who have a premium to mass appeal, they are viewing tier 2, tier 3 strategies very, very seriously.
Before Vivek, you ask your view on this. Rehan talked about the income levels, right, in tier 3 cities. I'll just want to add one point here, that a lot of people are working from home right now, and they're going to do so for at least maybe till next year. And these are people who are earning well. They were in metro cities. Their salary levels were different, and now they're operating from tier three towns, their hometown. So do you think that also kind of changes the equation for the in the near term at least?
I think yes, it changes the equation in the near term, but then it's going better in the way that now these people who are working from home in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, they're actually getting more value time to spend with their families and go out and do the shopping and all. Income level, yes, it might have gone a bit low, but then their expenses have gone even further lower in those cities. So the spending is even more, and they have time actually to go to the malls and do shopping. So aspirations are much higher in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. uh, I feel there is a lot of potential there. We as a developer have a lot of stake in tier 2, tier 3. Rather, it's more in those cities compared to the metros, because we see a lot of potential which is coming out of that.
Okay.
So yes, equation has changed, but it's changed for better.
Okay. Vivek, how do you see this? So smaller towns, your products, the high-end products mostly, which are consumed in maybe metro cities or something. Do you think that the portfolios in the smaller cities that you used to maintain will change?
So it's an interesting topic to discuss upon. So there are three subsets to this particular point. First is whenever you look at this country, we are not operating into one country. We have India and we have Bharat. India is all about your metros and the state capitals. Bharat is your tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and so on and so forth. The consumer psyche, the purchasing behavior, my occupancy cost, my overall commercial profile changes dramatically if I were to go down the ladder from metro to tier 2 to tier 3 and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of offering, first I would answer your question, which is related to the malls. Now, yes, there is a ample amount of supply of malls. People are announcing malls will come up in huge numbers. What I personally see as a retailer, as a 15-year experienced retailer, if any mall has to come up anywhere, whether it is metro or tier 1 or tier 2, it has to stand for some differentiation. If it is a me too mall, they will definitely be struggling, and brand will also be struggling, saying that if there is nothing unique in the overall offering, I end up burning my cost being a retailer. They end up burning their precious capital being a developer, because constructing a mall is not an easy job. It's a capital intensive industry. You have to get your thought right, why my mall is different from others. That USP thing has to come out very clearly. As far as the brand strategy is concerned, Rehan absolutely pointed it right, that from a cost structure perspective, it is a very attractive proposition for me, because SSPD, sales per square feet per day, is extremely attractive in towns like a Gorakhpur or a Raipur. But if I were to look at my cost structure, it is absolutely lower to what a Delhi or a Bombay or a Calcutta will offer. But if you were to further dissect city like a Delhi, I have lots of Gorakhpurs within Delhi. So there are suburban cities of Bombay, for example, Virar in Bombay, if people are familiar with Bombay geography. Virar is not Bombay. Bombay is South Bombay, which is what Bombay clearly is visible to the rest of the world. But if you go to Virar, if you go to Vasai, they depict a part of Gorakhpur in that, because the consumer profile, the cost profile, and the SSPDs are pretty much reflective of that. So if from a mall perspective, if you are giving that kind of offering into the system, it makes a lot of sense to the consumer, to the retailer, and to the developer. So that's how I see that.
Very interesting perspective that you've given. So, coming to the other part of mall operations. Do we expect that, there would be flexibility in terms of leasing models and global supply chain diversification? Are these the key which you think are going to uh, shape the retail space in the coming time?
Well, when you say flexibility,
In leasing models, in terms of, landlords being more like, you offering more maybe uh, y- y- friendly terms to Vivek to operate stores or something.
so I'll take in case in point as the company that I represent, DLF. So both in the first lockdown and in the second lockdown, we gave 100% rental waiver to all our retailers as a policy. I mean, there was no negotiation with anyone. We just gave it out to all 2,000 retailers who do business with us, and it wasn't even discussed in the first after the first pandemic. Yes, we rolled out a scheme which went on with support for the next few months and this time around as well. So from an understanding point of view, when the relationship between the retailer and the developer is healthy, one expects that there will be support from both ends. But other than that, as we move forward, and not just in the luxury malls, but in the premium malls also, we have seen the demand come back very, very strongly. And going forward, I think, from a retailer's perspective also, they would also want to be in malls which are performing exceedingly well. Those who have been able to weather the storm and come out on the top. So, from a flexibility point of view, I think beyond understanding each other's pain areas, going forward, commercial terms will be the way they will be. Uh, you know, if everything goes off well.
um,
I have a slightly different opinion here because not every developer is DLF. So when you talk about the other developers, yes, there's been a lot of flexibility now in terms of the business models also. So we've gone ahead with revenue share options. We've gone ahead with MG or revenue share options. We've done capex support in some cases. So things are changing. We also understand the pain points what the retailers have, and they also need to understand what the developers have. And together, we'll trying to work as a team to give better options now.
any interesting demand that you came across from any retailer in the past 1.5 years?
Yeah, so I would say, once you start becoming a little flexible, then the retailers also tend to take the advantage. So, they come back and they want to extend that period further. So that's something which is not really required, because when you see the business coming back and you see the numbers, then why do they still need the support? So that's something which is strange, which is little strange, but then that's what is happening.
Okay.
Vivek?
Vivek, did you make any such request to any of your developers?
Fully agreed. Absolutely no denial in that. No, so jokes apart, this is how it goes. So developer obviously has got a cost structure to meet. They have their regular CAM expenses, which they have to meet without a doubt. Whether the mall is shut or it's open, they have to maintain the basic hygiene, and that goes without saying. So if they come to me and say that yes, there is certain cost attached to my business, they are absolutely right. Being a retailer, I have to understand their pain points. I have also always maintained with all the relationship that I had with all the leading mall groups that it's a symbiotic relationship. It's a mutual relationship wherein both have to kind of traverse through this issue. It's not my problem, it's not his problem, because without brand, no mall can exist. Without mall, no brand can exist. So unless and until we don't understand each other's pain, and there cannot be 100% perfect balance between the concession or negotiation. The person who is giving the waiver will always feel I have given more. The person who has got it will always feel I could have gotten more. There's no end to it.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Moving to something else. So, as I could gather from till what we have spoken, that uh, business is back, retail is doing well. We will go to the technology part a little later. Before that, this is completely in contrast with a report of this year, which was made in the starting of this year by a leading consultancy in India, that retail is expected to fare the worst compared with office and residential. So, do you think that since after the second wave, and we are kind of seeing plateauing of the numbers, by God's grace, and the numbers have been around 40,000, and the third wave is lurking, but we're still not sure if it's going to happen. So, is this a cautious, optimism that is there, and that is why these numbers are back? Abhinav?
See, there is definitely a difference in the comeback when you compare it with retail, the residential sector or the office sector. Yes, it's been late in retail. I believe because of the government norms, because of safety issues. This was the last priority actually of the customers as well. But then the comeback has been faster compared to the other channels, office or residential for that matter. Yeah, so I mean, there was something else.
Yeah. So, is this a cautious optimism? Are we just trying to capitalize before something else happens, the third wave happens? So, kind of.
This is, yes, you're right to a certain extent. And if this third wave really doesn't come, I don't see a comeback at all. And it's going to be only and only positive from here.
Okay, Rehan, you want to add to that?
See, there, from the recovery point of view, I think retail is a very sentiment-driven business. So today the sentiment is bad, tomorrow will start reflecting in your sales. So it's that quick, that it's completely sentiment-driven. So if the third wave if there is sentiments, there is still cautious, as you say, it's cautious optimism, and people are stepping out, but still little reluctantly because they have the third wave back in the mind, and even the retailers are not going full throttle because they understand that there may be a third wave, and we may undergo another lockdown. Therefore, nothing is on a full throttle in terms of marketing is also restricted. It's not
It's
going all
going to
through.
remain a long drawn
Yeah, yeah,
recovery.
it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a battle for a good 2-3 years. By the time we completely stabilize and come out of this pandemic, so the sentiment is, of course, it's positive today. Tomorrow, if the cases, like today, the cases have been up, and there have been number of case reports. So if we are inching towards another wave, I think it's going to hit us equally bad.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So I'll go towards the tech and e-commerce part now. So, uh, it was mentioned that a completely new way of purchasing has started. People who are reluctant, as Rehan said, that they have taken up to technology. Uh, I believe, or I would like to believe rather, that there is also a new segment of people who were not buying at all, but are now customers because of technology, because it's available on their apps. They were not anyway going to buy, say, the elderly or in smaller towns, especially. But now with technology, they're doing, and now that they have adapted it, do you think? So here's the trade-off, that things will be bought, the business will be on, but will that happen from retail stores, or going forward retail stores will more act like fulfillment centers, rather than being the actual delivery places? What do you think, Prashant?
So, you know, as far as technology is concerned, a lot of brands have, over the last 2 years, changed the way they work. So today, AR and VR has become an integral part of brand strategy for many brands. You know, Dior, for example, released a B27 sneaker on an Instagram with a filter where you could try the sneaker, through your Instagram and buy it. Uh, from other luxury brands, whether it is Vuitton or Kering Group or Richemont, all of them have started embracing technology in a very very big way. There are now fashion shows for spring summer, which are happening on platforms like Twitch, which is the first time that you're seeing luxury brands, do online fashion shows. If you look at the last two editions of FDCI within India, both the FDCI editions, whether it was the couture or the fashion version, both were online completely. So yes, there is a lot of focus. I was reading a study which said that globally, if there are 30% people who are comfortable with online shopping, that percentage in India is 57%. That also has got to do with the demographic of our country. But as I mentioned earlier as well, I feel that while there will be technological progress made on all fronts, there will be a hybrid model which will exist to a certain extent. What you mentioned could be one of the ways where a retail format could become a fulfillment center. There could be other hybrid models. Today, throughout the lockdown, most of the brands were selling on WhatsApp. You could do a video call to a fashion consultant within a brand, uh, and they could guide you through what you can purchase, and they were selling it completely through a mobile experience. uh, After the first lockdown, we had consultants at both Emporia and Chanakya to help you. You could just call up on a WhatsApp number, and our consultant would go inside a Tiffany or a Chanel or an Hermes and help you in choosing a product. So hybrid models are here to stay. Technology, yes, will keep on advancing, but both will coexist as we move along.
Yeah, yeah, Rehan, and also to add to that, with newer people getting into into the as in people who are started to buy, I think it only increases the scope, right?
See, there are a few things that we will have to probably agree with. One is that none of the models can completely kill the other model. So it's not that the brick and mortar is going to die. Theoretically speaking, of course, I mean, it can be easily proven that if you have an online presence, then then your brick and mortar will completely become only a fulfillment center. But what we are missing out in this comparison theoretically is the experience of shopping. Okay, that experience of eating out, experience of going out and shopping, experiencing the entire the entire store, the way it is presented to you, the entire ambience of the mall that you're going into. So that experience plays a very important role. So theoretically, although people may say whatever, but I think I firmly believe that I think brick and mortar cannot be killed. It can't be, chiefly because of the experience. Of course, the hybrid model, as I agree with Prashant completely in terms of the hybrid models will come into play. I think there's no brand or developer or any side of real estate which is not embracing technology or artificial intelligence or upgrading the entire experience. And of course, that can't be done without technology. So both these will coexist and coexist peacefully and profitably is what I can firmly say, that both these channels will completely exist. Now we have to look at three. Let's look at three set of customers. Like for example, the generation above us. I mean, they were completely reluctant to get into any kind of an online shopping, but you will find and you'll be pleasantly surprised that your mother will be probably ordering groceries online. And your children, of course, they are hooked onto technology completely, much more than we have been. We are the one who are actually fluctuating between technology and brick and mortar. But I think in times to come, it will of course, as I mentioned, the technology will continue to grow and improve, and omni-channel is a reality. It's right here, it's right in front of us. All stores will have tremendous amount of technology. There will be online shows, there will be online selling, there will be online tryouts. They will be probably, if you're walking, if you can just wear your clothes online too. I mean, you can see, you can create click pictures, you can upload on Instagram. So all these experience will keep enhancing as the day goes by. But uh, I think that's what I have to say in terms of technology for brick and mortar
Yeah.
and online.
The interesting thing, Vivek, I would want to come to you with this tryout thing. I've seen clothes coming to home, going back, because every person, their body is unique, and so that experience that you go to a retail store, try out the thing, and see which one exactly is fitting you, and then you come back, satisfied customer. In online, obviously there are technologies which are evolving, which will take care of it maybe in times to come. But still, do you think that's one USP that still a retail store would have an edge?
So a slightly deeper answer to it. You'll have to look at how Indian society is shaped up and how the typical behavior is. If you ask the word recreation to any Indian consumer, the most popular answer will be going to a mall. So for us, the definition of the word recreation is not doing something else but going to a mall. Shopping, F&B, and cinema becomes consumption out of it. So saying that brick and mortar may not remain relevant, it will remain relevant for at least 50 more years, because India, where there are just 6 lakh villages alone, you can't de-link those population by saying that since the technology has come in, we'll embrace it and we'll completely de-link that population. So yes, there will be a gradual shift. Everything that the two panelists said will remain. Benetton is doing exceedingly well in technology front. There will be a day where we will not have any trade shows. The entire team of Benetton, which I mean distributor and the partners, will log in from their computer. I will have a this size gallery, and there will be nothing but screens where you can pick up your garments. So those days are also there. But then the fundamental question here is how e-commerce survives. As of now, if you ask the audience, the first and foremost filter for 90% of people is discount. You don't go and search for a right size, right fit, right design. First is put on the filter, see where there is 70% off, and then see what do I like. That is a liquidation channel for us. From a brand perspective, it's a liquidation channel. It's not an experience that I'm going to give you. The moment this entire journey shifts from discounting to generating consumer experience, and the trigger is comfort and convenience, then these two models will remain sustainable. Otherwise, going with the current trend, it is just denting my P&L, nothing else.
But Vivek, just an idea that I think in the last couple of years, most of the brands have also realized that discounting and deep discounting and some of these discountings, which is not even in their agenda, is driven chiefly by the platform that they are participating in. Because the cash discounts are coming from them, they have actually hurt their brand equity, and they have actually got repositioned without even realizing that they've got repositioned.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are many brands. I won't name them in this forum, but then if you were to look at the discounting, the overall aspiration of that particular brand goes down.
Yeah, so I think brands are also realizing that the subconscious repositioning that they've been able to they've been able to degrade themselves.
Oh yes,
They have managed to
absolutely.
degrade themselves.
Absolutely.
So they're consciously now making an effort, and I think you'll have your set of views on that. That most of the brands now have a different set of merchandise which they are setting for brick and mortar, and they have a different set of merchandise which is now developing, and that's the discounted merchandise. It's lower on quality. It's not interfering with their seasons, and those set of merchandise are going into the online, so that even if it's super discounted, it's not affecting their brick and mortar, and there's no overlap of merchandise.
So what any retailer typically does is, as you rightly pointed out, there are always two sets of merchandise or two sets of offering in any e-commerce platform. You can always buy my fresh collection, which will not be on discount, or there could be a meager 10 or 15% discount, which you will be also getting in the physical stores. But as far as the deep discounting is concerned, fully agreed. It is basically eroding the brand value, brand aspiration only. So I don't think it's a long-term phenomena. It will die its own death. The trigger again will be the convenience factor. So for example, if it is raining loud, if it's raining heavily here, or you are not able to go to ambience mall, for example, and if you wish to pick up something, then order online, get the same merchandise delivered to your place. That is called convenience and comfort. Here you didn't opt for discounting or deep discounting. You ordered for convenience. That should be the driving factor. Then both the models can sustain.
Okay. I think Prashant will definitely differ in terms of discounting because you deal with brands. They give discounts, right?
That's correct. Luxury and discounting don't go hand in hand. Uh, if you discount your product, then what's so luxurious about it? Most of the brands who are doing well internationally, as far as luxury is concerned, have a no discounting policy throughout the year. And what's very interesting is that the top 10 luxury brands across the world, if you look at the number 1 to number 10, they do combine more sales than the next 90 luxury brands put together. So that's the Darwinian effect. It's the survival of the fittest. And these brands are very clear. You could walk into that brand's showroom in Delhi or Paris or London or New York, you will get 0% discount in all four places. So it's very clear. And as I said, the top 10 are heavier than the next 90 combined. So yeah, I mean, for each segment is different, and within luxury, the emphasis is not so much on the discounting part or price sensitivity, but on quality. What is the quality? What does your maison stand for? What is your atelier doing? How is it that you're different from a similar luxury product in the same price bracket? And why would the consumer come to you? What experience are you able to deliver to him or her when he or she enters your store? How will that story play out? That is far more important. What customer service will you be able to give after the product is purchased? The relationship with the luxury customer is not a one time transaction. It is how are you able to service that customer through the next 10, 20, 30 years, and they keep them as a customer. They keep coming and keep buying from you. So it's different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fair point. Any questions from the audience before we wrap it up, because we're running late anyway? Any questions? All right, I think I've asked all the relevant questions, so there are no questions from the audience. So that's great. That's great. So thank you, everyone. And I'll just end with a piece of information that I read in the morning. That the urban population of this country, which is right now at 35%, is going to be more than 50%, like 52% by 2050, and by 2036. 18 state UTs and states will be 50% urbanized. So the more I think the urbanization happens, more it augurs well for the retail industry, because there's more scope to service more people, to serve more people. So good luck to everyone, and I hope we are upwards from here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, panelists. We indeed had a great insight about the retail industry. Thank you so very much. Saurabh ji, can I please request you to present the mementos to our panelists? We'd like to get it on the stage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it loud together as we present it to Mr. Prashant Gaurav Gupta. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. For Mr. Rehan Huck, thank you for taking your time out for being here with us. Well, this one is from Mr. Ajmera. Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for joining us today. Mr. Rehan Huck, thank you so very much for your time. So this was a very immersive and talkative session about retail. Thank you so very much once again. I request all of you to please get together for one group picture. Let's do it. Thank you, Saurabh, for moderating the session. We are glad that you could join us and moderate